There are many different pillars of Western esotericism. There are many different facets of Freemasonry. And today I want to discuss one of those facets, alchemy, which I'm finding to be quite fascinating. So, if you will, grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's have a little chat about what exactly alchemy is and how you can apply it in your life. So one of the main concepts of Freemasonry is rebuilding yourself to be a better man. To take a good man, make him into a great man, right? And what we do as Freemasons is we are builders of a temple. And that temple is internal. So we are all architects of our own temples. And we come together in our fraternity as stones that can be placed within the walls, and we can work together. Because when you look at the wall of a building, the stones have to be able to work together, right? They can't just be of any size and shape and conformity. The wall will not stand. One could even make the allegory that today our individual society is now made up of a bunch of rough ashlars that don't ever have the ability to form a wall, which is causing the walls to come down. Now, alchemy is an ancient science. It originates, as they say, in the lands of Chem, which is what Egypt was before it was called Egypt. And it was so named for the rich black soil of the Nile River as it would flood. And it was from this land that they say the cradle of civilization comes. If you subscribe to some of the more woo-woo stuff, then, like with the Sphinx having water erosion on it, according to scientists, they say that there's actual water damage on the Sphinx, and that water could not have been there before, 10,000 years ago or something like that, 12,000 years ago, right around when the Younger Dryas catastrophe happened. So we know, I followed that. Like it looks like water damage to me, and then I have geologists saying that that's water damage. So I'm going with that's water damage, which means that the Sphinx is far older than the 4,000 years old that we're told. And so again, the woo-woo where I got derailed on that is that, of course, that when Atlantis fell, that one of its main colonies was in Chem, and that the science has come from Atlantis. Now, whether you believe that or not is fine. I'm not here to try to convince you. That's the legend, right? So alchemy is based off of the word chem. It comes from Egypt. And with alchemy, we are enabled to take the essence of creation. And the essence of creation is divided into three metaphoricals: salt, sulfur, and mercury. It's not real salt, real sulfur, and real mercury. It's what's attributed to it. And salt is the body, the physicality, right? The salt of the earth. Sulfur is the soul, the fire. And spirit is the mercury. Mercury is the spirit. And it's kind of what binds the two together. Our spirit. No, soul and spirit are two different things. And so we take that, and through a process, what we can do is we can take matter and we can take it through the stages of alchemy. And the stages of alchemy, in general, there are four, and they represent the four elements. The first is the negrito phase, or the blackening phase. It's the death phase. It's when you cut the plant or the mineral off from its source and it dies. It turns black. You take that dead plant and you have to go to the next phase, which is you're trying to remove its components, trying to separate it. So it's the act of separation. And so we use a reagent of some type to interact with the matter, the plant or whatever, and that splits the oils and the essences of the plant out and separates them from its what you get left is this clump of death stuff called feces, right? And the feces is actually very important. You want to keep the feces, but it splits those apart. And you use a reagent for that, which is alcohol or something for plants. Now, I'll get into that in a minute. And then you have to purify it, and that goes through a distillation phase, the air phase, where we purify the substance. And finally, once it's been purified, we recombine it. And that forms the ultimate substance you're creating. Now, we can do a lot with alchemy. Of course, we have the legends and whatnot. So there's two types of alchemy. Or at least there's two types that I know about. If you know of other types, leave them in the comments. But we have plant alchemy. And plant alchemy is you're working with plants to create tinctures and whatnot, and get the oils and whatnot and distill from that and make tinctures or solvents. And then we have mineral alchemy. That's where you're dealing with metals and things like that, like the turning of lead to gold. Now, with alchemy, the thing, and you'll see lots of different images of alchemy. I've got a couple here. So above my shoulder there, we have the green lion. The green lion is the substance before it's been turned, right? Before it's been purified. And in this case, it's eating the sun. That represents acid, eating the substance. It's separating it. And then the red lion is the ultimate end. So anytime you see a red lion, that means that you've reached the end of the alchemical phase. And the red lion represents whatever that ending is. Actually, go back to the green lion. One of the images of the green lion is he's trying to swallow the sun, which is gold. And there's an acid. There's only a certain type of acid that can actually interact with gold, but most acids can't melt gold, I believe. I may be wrong on that, but that's what these images kind of are alluding to. Now, I just started a tincture of my own. So using plant alchemy here, I've got, this is about 54 grams of, and it's really hard to see, I'm sure, on camera, and it's dark in here, but this is a powder. This is from the Melissa plant. And the Melissa plant is also known as lemon balm. And you may, if you smelled it, you would recognize it as tea. So your standard tea leaf often comes from the Melissa plant. And so if you're getting into alchemy, the Melissa plant and lemon balm is one of the first tinctures that you will make. And there are different sources you can get on herbs and whatnot. I'll leave a couple links in the video below to the ones that I use, that I like. But the Melissa plant itself has chemistry, actual doctoral scientific use as an antidepressant, and it uplifts your mood. And on top of that, it has alchemical uses as well. It is ruled by Jupiter, which is important in alchemy to know the ruling planet, which means that when you cut it and crush it in a mortar and pestle to make this powder, it should be done on a Thursday, which is the day that is said that Jupiter rules. And then there's hours as well. Like there's certain hours that those planets astrologically rule a day. And for Jupiter on Thursday, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and 10 o'clock in the evening are the best times to grind this. But any time on Thursday, you would work with it. And then on certain days, you'd begin your actual operation to make this tincture from this material. So again, I've ground up 54 grams of the Melissa plant, so I've got this powder, and I'm waiting to go for mine. And for this, you would actually, I'll begin on the first day of Jupiter, Thursday, after a waxing moon, which will be next week. So next Thursday, I will be beginning the process of creating a tincture of lemon balm, which again is the first alchemical tincture that a lot of hermeticists, alchemists will do to learn, because it's a simple one. Now, some things with alchemy. So we talk about Kabbalah, and we talk about tarot, and we talk about philosophy, and all these other things. And those can be dangerous in their own right. Don't get me wrong. Alchemy is physically dangerous. And so you have to really be careful with this stuff. You're dealing with powdered plant, so you want to be careful with your breathing. You want to wear a mask. You want to be safe. You want to make sure you're not working with any toxic plants. So you have to really know what you're getting into. And then on top of that, you're dealing with potential fire and explosives, right? And you go, what do you mean? Well, the reagent we use in plant work is going to be alcohol. The older alchemists want us to use grape alcohol. And in fact, if you study under some of the writings, it'll say you must use grape alcohol, under no circumstances use anything else. Well, there's a problem. The problem is when you're working with this stuff, you need a high proof, you need a high alcohol content alcohol. And the highest proof legally you can get from grape alcohol would be like a brandy or a cognac. And you're talking maybe 100, 110 proof, 120 proof. I think Christian Brothers is the highest brandy you can get. That's not enough. So what that means is you have to distill your own grape alcohol. You have to take that brandy and make it stronger through the art of distillation to increase its alcoholic content. And there's a couple problems with that. Number one, that's ethanol alcohol. So at 100%, ethanol alcohol can be used as fuel. It is explosive. So if you're not doing things properly and those vapors are escaping your apparatus, you could blow up your house. Okay, so it's dangerous. It's a legit danger. People die from doing stuff like this, making illegal substances, but it's the same concept, right? You're dealing with explosives. You can be dealing with explosives. Ethanol alcohol is explosive. Number two, it is illegal, at least in the United States, to distill your own alcohol. Now, certain states will allow you to do it, but because it's federally illegal, you require a license and a permit. So you have to check, can I distill my own alcohol in my state legally? Can I own a still? And we're not even talking making gallons and gallons of stuff. You're talking about a little still that makes, 250 milliliters of alcohol. It's about a half of a flask. That's about what I need for this, what I showed you. So you can do it in some states with a permit and a license. So you're paying an alchemist tax basically every year to the government to be able to do it. But on top of that, if you live in the city, you probably belong to an HOA. And I know in my HOA, you can't have a distillery, even if it's small, on your property at all. But I know in my state, which does allow with a license and a permit, you can't have it in your own house. You have to have it in a building separate from your house. So there's all kinds of legal ramifications to distilling your own alcohol, which can be a barrier and a problem. You either have to find a laboratory of your own to rent, to distill the alcohol, which I know some people do. You do what you have to do, right? But my whole point is, if you're going to get into this, it's dangerous and can be illegal, okay? Point blank. Do your research before you delve into it. Now, what I'm using for this, because I am not distilling my own alcohol, is I'm using 190 proof Everclear, which is grain alcohol, which is 95% alcohol. Now, there are ways to sharpen that to make it 100. For where I'm at, I'm fine with 190 proof. Brother Mark Stavish, the Hermetic Institute in Pennsylvania, he has a paper on this as well, and he says, 190 proof is fine. The reason why the older alchemists wanted you to use grape alcohol, and I asked this question, it's a very difficult question to get an answer to, but the best answer I've gotten is it has the most gold content, and that's why we prefer it. If you can't do that, you got to go with what's available to you. And in my state, it's legal for me to buy a bottle of 190 proof Everclear and use that as my reagent. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I don't have to do anything that is going outside of the law. I'm staying within the rules, right? And I'm going to do my thing. So we're going to start this thing next Thursday. And there's a whole process involved, which I'm not going to get into in here. But I share posts on social media and in our Discord. So if you're interested in alchemy, we do have a little discussion in a little channel in our Discord. You're free to join, contribute. I'll leave a link again below to the Discord. Now, the difference between alchemy and chemistry, right? So chemistry is derived from alchemy. Chemistry came about through the Age of Reason in the 1500s. Spirituality and the material world split. The Age of Reason. Up to this point, what we thought we knew was interwoven with spiritual ideas. And those got wrenched apart, for better or for worse. We are, in my opinion, very materialistic today, to the point where science denies things without even accepting that they could be true. For example, the Sphinx with the water damage on it. You'll still get historians and Egyptologists saying, no, the Sphinx can't be that old. That's not water damage, even though it seems to clearly be, right? And there's many different examples of this. I know physics and like string theory and quantum physics are starting to show us that there's a lot more to the universe than we can see, and we have very flawed senses. So anyhow, in the 1500s, that spirituality and science split. Spirituality was thrown in the garbage, and all we had left was science. And so from astrology, we got astronomy, and from alchemy, we got chemistry, which is just, I give you a recipe and you go off and do it. So that's one important difference between alchemy and chemistry. In chemistry, if I hand you a recipe, tell you how to do it, and you go off and do it perfectly, it should work all the time. In alchemy, if I give you a recipe and hand it to you, some of you might accomplish it. A lot of you won't, even though you did it perfectly. And that is the key. That's one of the key differences. And the reason that is your own internal vibrations, your own internal, whatever you want to call it. When you're working with these plants and you're working with these minerals, they're kind of like your philosophical children, and you treat them as such. And it is that vibe that you put into the work that makes all of the difference. And we have some brothers in the collegiate. Actually, one of them he was doing a scientific experiment on this. He did some type of tincture or mixture, and he just did it chemically, add the stuff, and nothing happened. And then he did a thing where he said he prayed over it, and he did like a little ritualistic chant over it. And then when he did the operation, he recorded, and he had, I believe he had like photos, like it actually had a reaction. And he did the same thing on both. And it had a reaction when he did the ritualistic part, the praying part. And he's doing more work on this. I hope he writes a paper. I think that would be cool. Now, of course, that'll be derided as, well, that's all crap. That's lies. He obviously did something to the mixture to make it do something, and he's just saying it was prayer. Right. So, it is what it is. You're gonna believe what you want to believe. I understand. Being a skeptic's important. In fact, you should be skeptical of everything, especially when you get into this type of realm. I was skeptical, and I've seen some amazing things. I've seen some really amazing things with alchemy that have enabled me to want to shift gears a little bit and explore it and build on that pillar, because it is one of the pillars of Western esotericism. And what I like to say alchemy is good for, one of the things, other than you can heal with it, you got to be careful. You have to treat this stuff with respect. Again, This is a dangerous area of the woo-woo. But because alchemy doesn't work unless you're in the right mindset, it is a good gauge to know where you are and where you stand on the tree of life in general, where you stand in the great work. And that's what I find to be profound about alchemy. It may not work at all because you're just not ready yet. And again, I understand we are deep in the woo-woo with this video, but that's the difference between alchemy and chemistry. And in Freemasonry, we deal only in spiritual alchemy. So you'll hear a lot of people when you say, what is alchemy? Well, it just means spiritual alchemy. And spiritual alchemy is a thing. And in Freemasonry, that's what we do. We take ourselves, who we are, and we go through a process of intense philosophy and inner reflection and building, and we transform ourselves into a better person. That's spiritual alchemy, and you can do that. Any of you watching can do that if you so choose. Physical alchemy, however, is a thing. It is a thing in the Hermetic arts, and like spiritual alchemy, it is used to take a substance or a plant or a mineral and turn it into something else that's beneficial, that heals, that has an effect. So it's really cool to get into. It's an ancient art. It's probably one of the most ancient arts, and I've had a lot of fun with it. So I don't do a lot of videos back to back typically, and it's been a little while since I did one, but this is what I've been doing in the summer. It's actually getting ready to storm outside for the first time in 2 years. I'm very excited about that. I might actually go watch some of it. So it's been a very interesting month. The world events and economy and jobs notwithstanding, it's been an interesting time. So I wanted to share that with you. So if you have any experience with alchemy that you'd like to share, please drop a message. Again, I will leave a link to the Discord should you so wish to join and participate. If you find me on Facebook, feel free to say hi. I like the conversation. That's kind of why I do this. But thank you for tuning in. And until next time, stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll talk to you soon.